So, hi to everyone. Welcome to the sixth episode of FinTech for Everyone. So, with this new semester, I'm planning to first of all discuss about the recent developments for economics and for crypto economics in general. And this week, we will first cover the recent developments, including the Turkish economy's Turkish lira's devaluation, and also some recent announcements which might be very important for the crypto economics ecosystem. For example, there was a recent comment by Hillary Clinton saying that the cryptocurrencies can destabilize the nation's economies. So, for example, I don't agree on this. And but still, it is, I think, important to think about if those cryptocurrencies are indeed a kind of destabilizing asset family for the currencies themselves, or actually the economic policies, which are the main responsible functions which determine the currency's valuations. On that perspective, I think understanding what is going on through the pandemics is a kind of good experiment for testing the economic theories. We have all seen that in developed countries and for emerging economies, we are in the periods where we see negative real interest rates. This is one of the number one reasons, I believe, why cryptocurrencies, the market for cryptocurrencies, is increasing in volume, why the popularity of those assets are increasing through the all nations and all citizens. So, in that sense, the comment of the cryptocurrencies are kind of destabilizing nations, or they have this type of potential, might be a false claim, because at the end, the central banks, first of all, in terms of their responsibility and in terms of their duty, it is their role to stabilize the currency's valuations. Recently, it is now in all the news channels that we have seen a very harsh decrease in the value of Turkish lira against USD dollar. And many people speculate about the reasons of that. But long story short, in these times, through the pandemics, every central bank increased the liquidity level in the economics at the beginning of the pandemics, starting from Fed, of course. So the kind of oversupply of USD dollar, of course, first of all, decreased the dollar index, in that sense, dollar's value against other currencies. But now, due to the new conditions for the economics, including the US economy's recent parameters, they all show us that the US economy is recovering, which means also announced by the Fed's decisions, we are in the period where we should all expect a potential increase in the interest rate for USD. So this is actually a kind of call from an economist's perspective. This is a kind of call for the circulating USD dollar across the country's economies to actually come back to US economy in that sense. So while in these conditions occur, many emerging countries are increasing the interest rates to kind of compensate for the depreciation in the currencies. On the other hand, in the Turkish economy, we have seen another opposite direction type of decision. The interest rates are decreased, and due to the market structure, that is the main reason why we have a kind of huge decrease in the valuation of Turkish lira. So another recent development which might be important is actually coming through India. Well, in India now, in the new term for the parliament, there is a risk that the cryptocurrencies can be banned. And when we have these type of news from China or India, of course, they trigger a kind of fluctuating environment for the cryptocurrencies. Why is the main reason behind these, do you think, is my main question? Why China, why India, they are banning those cryptocurrencies, or at least they plan to ban those cryptocurrencies? Many people speculate about that as well, but we shouldn't forget that this is actually not only a style for cryptocurrencies, but it is a policy style. Instead of uh, creating or instead of creating new policies for cryptocurrencies, those countries have a tendency to create their own digital currency, which we have discussed in the previous episodes in detail, which countries are now improving in their digital currency projects. China has digital yuan. Now India is signaling that they will have their own digital currency. So it looks like the regulatory body's attitude is okay, so the cryptocurrencies are not under the control of our central bank. So there are two options. Either we will have some regulations for the cryptocurrencies, or uh, we will ignore actually those cryptocurrencies and create our own digital currency, which we will create a new asset structure, which will be in uh, integration with those cryptocurrency markets. So these seem to be the plan. On the other hand, it doesn't need to be. First of all, cryptocurrencies, digital currencies, or the new plans by giant technology firms to create their own digital currencies. These three new asset classes can live together. So the difficult task is actually to model the necessary institutions, the necessary rules, so that how these new different style of financial assets can exist in different markets or in same markets. So let me also read one question at this moment from Matt Topuz. If every country creates its own cryptocurrency, wouldn't it affect the decentralized idea of the crypto world? An excellent question. So we can put them in a spectrum, so like the color spectrum. So the cryptocurrencies are in the one end of the spectrum, which is based on the idea of decentralization, no controlling institution behind cryptocurrencies in principle. So digital currencies by central banks are in the polar opposite of this spectrum. By definition, they are centralized. By definition, they are controlled by some institutions. And in the middle of these 2 points, now we are seeing new firms and also the existing giant technology firms like Facebook, Google, Apple, Samsung. They are all planning uh, digital currencies, their own digital currencies, which are integrated to the applications that they are already owning in the market. So these three asset classes are the ones that I'm referring to. So if every country creates its own cryptocurrency, by definition, it will be not cryptocurrency, but they will be creating their own digital currencies. And what will be the benefit of those digital currencies? Well, they would be more flexible in principle, and they would be programmed according to the policies of those central banks. So in that sense, they might create quicker devices to implement the new monetary policies. It will also help, of course, for those currencies to trade in the international market, which is the plans of digital yuan. At the end, I don't think that it will affect the decentralized idea of the crypto world because it is independent. It is in the opposite point of the cryptocurrencies, but it will, of course, create more uh, flexibility for any user getting benefit of those digital or cryptocurrencies. But more importantly, for economies which are much more globally connected now, and since everything is much more digitalized than ever, so these new type of cryptocurrency inspired digital currencies are needed indeed for the global trade, for the country's policies. And lastly, which is, I think, quite important though, that these digital currencies would, I think, also trigger the mass adoption, because once users experience about those digital currencies, they will also get used to the applications, and then they will have more interest in principle to check for the other alternatives. So digital currency adoption might increase the cryptocurrency adoption is one of the common hypotheses among the crypto enthusiasts. At this stage, let me actually share screen to show. So here is the latest newsletter, which is called Cryptocurrency, Crypto Economics newsletter. And in each episode, actually, we have some themes. And those themes include crypto finance, also FinTech, also DeFi, NFT, and on-chain. So in every 2 weeks for these FinTech for Everyone open lecture series, actually we will be covering those metrics. But since this is kind of the first one with new students in this new semester, I would like to describe the distinction among those. Why what we refer to FinTech, what do we refer to crypto finance, or what is the difference? So as the previous distinction among those three assets also illustrate, so we refer to FinTech to actually describe the institutional way of integration to the digital payment systems, to digital assets in general. So, which stands for financial technology. And in this series, we actually covered financial technology products, or basically the growth of FinTech. And this metric shows us that actually the daily active users in financial technology, in terms of the applications, it's increased actually more than 330 percentage. So within 1 year. So this is another effect and implication of pandemics, or another implication of digitalization, I think. So, and it doesn't look like to stop soon. So it is indeed profitable for many startups and many firms to invest in financial technology products. So I want to emphasize on this because for many people, for many entrepreneurs, the startup ideas are critical, and it is of course a good way to check what are the trends in the market, especially for the early stage startups. It looks like developing ideas for financial technologies, not only through the payment systems, but other type of, for example, super apps, which provide platforms to integrate existing applications or new applications. It might be a good idea to think about, I think. So as the comparison with crypto finance, we refer to the ecosystem of cryptocurrencies. So to make it more distinctive, with FinTech, we refer to the centralized type of products where there is a firm behind the product, where there is an institution behind the payment system, for example, or for the app. On the other hand, with the crypto finance, we refer to the cryptocurrencies in general. So another important news, which might be quite critical for the cryptocurrency ecosystem in the near future, was the US President Biden's $1 trillion infrastructure bill. So it was in the news and it affected already actually the markets. But why? What is the relation? What is the correlation of those type of infrastructure bills with the cryptocurrency ecosystem. Well, the very first effect of those type of bills is, of course, new liquidity to the markets, and those liquidity is provided to also the firms. That's another reason why during the pandemics we have seen quite a high increase in the institutional investments for the crypto ecosystem. On the other hand, of course, everyone should be very careful about the tapering policies, because repeatedly it is announced that the speed of decreasing the buying assets program would be or can be actually even higher than planned, which means that the provision of liquidity, the speed of provision of liquidity will be decreased gradually, and that gradually can be actually quicker than expected, which is a signal that Fed might increase the interest rates sooner than planned or sooner than expected, which will, of course, affect the cryptocurrencies and risk preferences of the firms, institutions, and even individuals in that sense. So during those times, we also see liquidations, especially due to the futures markets and sometimes to the margins operations. And recently we have seen another highest peak in those liquidations for Bitcoin futures long, which was the highest amount actually since October 22. So these type of data sets can be found and investigated through data providers, analytics providers like CryptoQuant. So in each newsletter, we try to present another metric from another source, so that if you are interested in following the analytics through the markets, those sources can be useful. They can be used as references. And of course, DeFi. So DeFi is by definition decentralized, and by definition referring to the protocols in general. So in crypto finance, we refer to the cryptocurrency markets in general. In DeFi, we refer to specific DeFi protocols. And of course, the specific users and their metrics for example, MetaMask usage. DeFi has been started through the Ethereum platform, but now many other blockchains have their own protocols. Those Ethereum-based DeFi protocols are quite inspiring for many other projects, certainly. And in that sense, this is by definition, the most decentralized spirit or phenomenon in the crypto ecosystem. And the metrics there actually reflect the need and also the adoption of those type of decentralization trends. For example, the MetaMask, which is among the most popular wallets, now seeing an increase of 21 million users since April, which refers to more than 400 percentage, which is indeed quite an important number, quite a striking number. And another recent development is through ENS token, which is referring to Ethereum name service. And we have seen an airdrop from this project. And the idea behind this is not only decentralizing finance, but decentralizing internet. So in that sense, DeFi is even more revolutionary than Bitcoin, because it is broader than finance. It aims a broader decentralization than the financial system, which includes any information source. So we will see and we will discuss a lot about Web3 protocols. We will discuss a lot about the intersection areas for metaverses, NFTs, blockchain, FinTech, and cryptocurrencies. And it looks like Ethereum and Ethereum name service protocol will be quite an important one for this decentralization movement. Last but not least, I wanted to briefly discuss about NFTs and on-chain, but not to violate the time limit, I will first focus on NFT. And of course, the next trend after DeFi was NFT since a while. And we have seen the rise of NFT markets altogether. And now we see that OpenSea has more than $11 billion of volume, which is, of course, huge for a recently emerged new trend. This is also important for its intersection and implication for fintech, because as we have discussed, uh, the institution's interest was rising since a while, but the cryptocurrencies or DeFi protocols are a bit technical for those many institutions or for the many newcomers. So many people and many institutions, many firms, although they have a huge interest for the cryptocurrency markets, a very common comment for these markets is, well, they are kind of abstract, they are kind of speculative, and the basic mechanics behind the supply and demand are not very well understood. NFTs, on the other hand, by being visual, I think it isn't the way for newcomers to the ecosystem. And buying and selling NFTs is more easily adopted by many new users. So these high growth in the NFT markets is, I think, reflecting that. And we will see that the intersection of the finance with art, with sports, will be not a decreasing trend. It will actually continue to be in the news as we think. So, lastly, I would like to briefly discuss and describe what do we mean by on-chain metrics. So, in cryptocurrency ecosystem, especially for Bitcoin, we can check the data easier than um, any other asset actually. Due to the blockchain's its own nature, we can see the number of addresses, the decrease and increase in that number. We can see the long-term holders' behavior. We can check many other metrics which can describe very clearly what is going on in the markets right now. So from one perspective, on-chain metrics are quite useful to give investment decisions. From another perspective, they are also providing quite a nice tool set to understand what happened during the cycles in the economics. So we will be sharing and we will be discussing about those on-chain metrics in detail. The plan is in each episode, I will describe one specific metric so that interested ones can continue doing research, doing their own check on those metrics and of course how to use them for better decisions to understand the trends in the market. And lastly, in each newsletter, we also illustrate the trends of the week. So it is in two parts, the last week's trending coins in Turkey and last week's trending coins in the global markets. Of course, these are not like signals. So if you are interested in to find any signals for the next week, these are not the correct right places. But again, I think it is quite important to check the trends in the markets because they have their own value by many reasons. So let me stop here sharing the newsletter. Of course, in every week we have the articles here. This time, the Bitcoin versus Ethereum comparison is, I think, quite a very valuable reference. If for anyone interested, you can read this source. Let me stop sharing here and let me check if there's any question. So from Ayucu Hocam, there is a question. So if governments want to produce their own cryptocurrencies, What should they be based on? For example, Ethereum, Bitcoin, or should they work on their own one? Well, this is another very important question, excellent one. So, of course, it first of all depends on what is the expectation from digital currency. And we can, I think, comfortably say that for any central bank, they would prefer to control that digital currency. So we have already fiat currencies, fiat money. So the digital currencies would be, in terms of value, of course, indexed by that fiat currency. But on the other hand, it should provide some flexible tools so that it will be meaningful to create the digital currency. A couple of use cases would be easing the international trade so that the local currency would be adopted by many other users in the world in an easier way as well. But not only this, for many payment schemes, so those digital currencies can be used as well, including the donations, the including monitoring some transaction activities for local trade or international trade, while checking the circulation of the money, especially after the expansionary policies, for example. It includes many use cases in principle, but implementing those in reality, well, it would require some control mechanism by those central banks. In that sense, I don't think that any decentralized platform like the Bitcoin's blockchain itself, Ethereum's blockchain itself, they would be the first choice for any central bank. So they would create either their own closed system, or they will actually just use some of the existing ones, but they will be privatizing those, which means at the end it will not be blockchain, of course. So any digital currency infrastructure would be a platform which is inspired by blockchain, but by definition, unless the central banks decide on the value of this currency should be should be decided by any participant in the supply mechanism of this currency. I don't think that it will be preferred or possible for any centralized currency. So, long story short, they would work on their own one, Hocam. So, not to access the time limit, if there are no other questions, let me stop here. So, in the next episode, I'm planning to cover some on-chain metrics. I will describe the usage of them. And of course, we will be, as the standard team, discussing the new developments, what is going on in the global markets, what is going on also in Turkish economy. So these type of stuff. So hopefully you will enjoy and you will benefit. Looking forward to meeting you in the next episode. See you.